Family caregivers get tangled up inside with fear, exhaustion, and stress. They're looking for reassurance that they're doing the right thing for their loved ones. I teach them how to find these answers within themselves, going into their body, their heart, and getting quiet. This is where they'll find the answers to, am I doing it right? Am I doing the best things for my loved one? As a caregiver, going into your body for reassurance can sometimes be frightening, but I know that it's possible. On a typical school day morning, my child self walked into the kitchen to see the remnants of my father's alcoholic rage. Most of the contents of the refrigerator were in the middle of the kitchen floor. Broken eggs, a half-eaten grapefruit, a broken carton of orange juice. What I didn't know then was how much I needed to be out of my body to function. I would step over the piles without feeling anything in particular and get ready to leave for school. I was in my early 30s before I began to understand how disconnected I was from myself. My awakening came in a therapy session with Robert. Robert was a gentle, meditative man in his 40s with balding brown hair. I just finished telling him during one of my sessions about early life traumas, sitting across from each other in his treatment room. As was typical for me in those days, I spoke about these things as if I was describing what kind of dish soap I liked. When I stopped talking, I looked at Robert and saw his eyes were filled with tears. He looked at me and said, "I'm so sorry about what has happened to you." In that moment, I felt inside of me, oh, I guess what happened really was bad. And that was the beginning of me starting to return to myself. I'm gonna wait just a minute to welcome. No, you're okay. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Something more than my mind in that moment felt his words. I wasn't ready yet to receive his words in my body, but it was a good start to notice that something other than my mind was letting it in. As caregivers, exhaustion and fear can propel you away from yourself. You can move through your days in a constant, I just have to keep going. Numbness can take over your body, which prevents you from being fully present with yourself and the person that you're caring for. So I'm going to pause for just a minute. Can anybody in the room relate to that? Yes, I see somebody nodding. Yes, yeah. And just feeling that inner propulsion of I have to go, I have to go, I have to keep going, I have to do it, I have to get it right. Your entire focus becomes doing and doing, although your intention is to prevent or relieve your loved one from suffering. What really happens is somewhere in there you leave yourself. I understand what this is like. I spent most of my adult life having no clue about which part of me was leading the way. Parts of me were asleep for so long that I'm still learning how to be fully in my body. Robert said that when someone is exposed to trauma on a regular basis, our emotional self can no longer take anything in, and the trauma then goes into the body to hide. Ongoing stress and exhaustion can do this too. He said, I think it was all you could do to get up in the morning, go to school, come home, and go to bed. There was no room for anything else. When I try to climb out of difficult situations by forcing myself to act like and feel something other than what I am experiencing in that moment, it doesn't work. To awaken and reconnect is more than just feeling emotions. It's about being honest, saying yes, welcome to whatever is really there. It's about being with our emotions for as long as needed. And most important, allowing them in our bodies where we've been disconnected for so long. So I want to pause again and ask what I'm saying, what I'm sharing, does it make sense? I don't want to use language and things that are foreign and don't make any sense. So if you're following so far, okay, great. As a caregiver, you have one of the most difficult and nonstop jobs. Fear and exhaustion can push you into a place of shutting down or looking outside yourself for answers. Also, as a long-term caregiver, you're likely overwhelmed, unable to take care of your most basic needs. The stress of constantly helping your loved one can cause you to not be at your best. When you're a caregiver, you may walk into difficult situations multiple times a day and have no idea what to do. That overwhelm creates all kinds of stories in your head. Even though they're not actually true, they can gain power over you. Let's say something doesn't go well while you're helping your loved one. It could be that you forgot to schedule their blood work, or you snapped at your brother because he's not been stepping in and offering to help. Some common conclusions people draw in these scenarios are, I'm not a good caregiver, or I'm not meeting my parents' standards. You feel inadequate in some way. Here's the real truth. You're plenty adequate and you're probably overwhelmed. These stories lead you further and further away from yourself and your loved one. When the stories start bossing me around, I've tried so many times to find answers and help outside of myself. Then I remember that my first step always needs to be to start within. Pause and breathe. So I'm going to pause right here. I know in the information that was online when you registered, there was mention of 5 proven steps. I'm not a huge fan of these kind of things like do these 3 things and then everything will be all better because it's not true. But it seems to appeal to people when you have something broken down like that. Here's 5 things to do or 3 things to do. So in the interest of trying to be helpful and make it clear, I came up with these 5 steps. They're proven to me because I use them all the time, and I also do consultations for clients, for families and their loved ones, and have had it reflected back to me that it's very helpful. So here's those 5 steps. And you could try it right now with me if you want or not. Pause and be quiet. Come home to your heart. That's the first thing. If you don't pause, it's going to be very difficult to find your place in yourself and find a way to offer the care that you're hoping to offer. At some point, you have to pause. It's just kind of the way it is. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be for half an hour. It can be for 3 minutes, but you have to pause. Look around and notice that there are no immediate threats. And that is so helpful, because when we get into the doing, and going, our adrenaline is pumping and we're stressed and we're anxious, and our mind can do all these stories that I was just talking about, and we get convinced that something horrible is happening or is going to happen, and there's some kind of threat. And sometimes there is something that needs immediate attention, for sure, but it doesn't have to be perceived as a threat. Take 3 mindful breaths, inhaling. I should have put my glasses on. And exhaling from deep down in your belly. So not like that. But let your belly hang out. And who cares what your belly looks like, especially for us women. Let your belly hang out and take 3 deep breaths from way down in that part of your body, and do it slowly. Then the 4th one is bring your attention to what is in that moment. So the what is could be something you're feeling in your body and other things. It could be that it's any number of things. And there's no wrong answer or wrong way here. And then you get to say, yes, welcome to whatever is there. And the intention with the yes, welcome is that it can help you hopefully relax a little bit and remember to breathe and not have these stories about, well, I can't think that, that's not right, or that's not nice, or I'm not allowed to think that, or say this or say that. Just to welcome, it's all kind of neutral, even though it doesn't feel that way in the moment. But to remind yourself that that is welcomed as well. Your joy, your stress, your tight shoulders, your anxiety, it's all welcome. Any questions about those things before I go on? Okay. All right, start with what is. Sometimes when I go into my heart and body, I feel nothing there in the beginning. The medicine for this is to meet this place of not knowing, greet it with love and care, and be in your heart and body as best you can, because the answer will come. I can guarantee it. Take it from somebody who has tried this so many times in the past, and I would go within and it was like, hello, is anybody home? There's nothing there, and it's all blank. It's like a blank slate. But if you practice and if you wait and keep breathing, something will come. And what might come is nothing, but that's still something. And here's another guess. I'm just going to wait a moment and let them get seated. Hi, welcome. I've had a lifetime of looking inside of myself, like I just said, asking, hello, is anybody home? So many times it was blank. I didn't know about the idea of caring for and being with this emptiness and waiting for my knowing. I didn't believe it would come. Now I know that it will eventually arrive. Take a big deep breath in while saying, yes, welcome. And if you can, muster up some kindness when you say that, some kindness for yourself. It's saying, yes, I welcome my frustration, my tired shoulders, my forgetfulness, my kind and unkind words I spoke to my aging mother this week. When you start anything by insisting that you be something other than what you are in that moment, you are further from your lovely caregiver's heart. You actually want to go deeper and closer to this place that holds so much wisdom for you. There are days when I still think it's so much easier to be disconnected from myself than to feel things. But disembodied isn't the way I want to be. I know better now. Oh, caregivers, I see you and I hear you. And I forgot to tell you, by the way, that I have about 15 years of doing one-on-one direct caregiving experience. And although I don't do that now, I just do teaching and consultations. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. And I also was the caregiver for both of my parents when they were dying. You are completely adequate and up for the task of caring for the one you love. Reconnect to your body at this moment. Breathe, say yes, welcome to whatever you find there. Think of one good thing you have done today, or the best thing that happened yesterday. Breathe into your huge caregiver's heart. This world of caregiving can feel fraught with overwhelm and confusion. If you can find a way to meet and care for these feelings, you will be more fully present. One of the most exquisite things I've ever done, this was during my one-on-one direct caregiving, was wash the face of a woman who I cared for. In that experience, I was able to get myself out of the way and be right there with her as the washcloth moved slowly over her wrinkled cheeks. I was able to look into her eyes and let each moment unfold on its own. Through reconnection to your body and looking inside, I know these experiences are available for you too. So I would love to hear if anybody's brave enough to raise your hand and speak. I would love for a challenge, for any questions that you might have. If you're currently in a situation or anticipating being in one, or you were in one and you don't feel good about it, it meaning the caregiving role, I would love to hear about it.
Well, your comments or what you read is very, it reminded me, I guess, when I was trying to take care of both of my parents in the last years of their lives, or last probably 18 months to 2 years. I was so frustrated because nothing I could do seemed to help mitigate the suffering that they were going through. I came to talk to our dean here at Trinity then, and the best advice I got is, Bill, there's nothing you can do except take care of yourself and carry on.
That's right.
You can't take away what's happening to them because that's all part of it. But anyway, a lot of comes to mind, and I've shared that experience a lot to other people starting the process. I
think that's very common, actually. It is very hard to watch somebody that we deeply love and care about when they're suffering. Very hard. And you said exactly what I would say, which is another way of saying it is that it's an inside job. Yeah. That this is the place to go, is inside, like you were just saying.
If I may add one more point.
Please do.
I was kind of disgusted with my brother because he could seem to not get over to see them and I didn't appreciate what he was going through too.
Right.
So a lot of common themes that you brought up.
Yeah, it's complicated.
10 years have gone by, but I still remember it. And I was very grateful for the opportunity to go through that with my parents because it was done with love, but it was really frustrating.
It's really hard.
Sleepless nights and phone calls in the middle of the night.
I know.
So anyway.
Yeah.
So thanks for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, because this is not an unusual situation at all, and it's complicated, this caregiving world, because as you said, it wasn't just you. It's not always a solo job. There's your cousin that drops in every Wednesday, and your sister, your brother, whatever. Yeah, so there's a lot of dynamics and different personalities that can become involved, and it's hard enough even without that. Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I remember when you were mentioning the, just so painful to watch somebody suffer and feel so helpless in what to do. And I remember when my dad was in his final months of his life and he received some care at, I was living in Mount Angel at the time, and so I would drive him up to the VA hospital here in Portland for some of his care. And when we would enter the hospital, I would kind of brace myself because the not all, but many of the people in the foyer and the waiting rooms, they didn't look good. They were missing appendages, and it just looked like they were really suffering. And this little insight came to me one day when I was walking with Dad through the lobby. And I thought, Linda, they don't look so good on the outside, but I don't know what's happening in their soul and in their heart. And they could be in a very high state in there. And so I chose to believe that. So who knows how many people were in that state or not. And I think that the lesson and learning for me in that was to not stop with the outside, like the outer appearance and the suffering and that kind of thing, because there are deeper places in there to go to.
I am new at this as of a few months ago. And there were two interesting things that happened in our household yesterday. My wife said, "I'm so sorry you have to do this." And I said, "You shouldn't be sorry. It's not your fault. It's just something that happens in lifetime." So I was not resentful of that. But about an hour later, she did not do something that she should have done, and I was immediately resentful of that. I hope after 3 weeks, I can learn to find that equilibrium a little more easily.
Yeah. These hard times in life like that, they are ultimately our greatest teacher. And as you saw in the beginning of my talk where I shared personal information, I've had mega opportunities to try and find the deeper meanings and understandings and teachings for myself from the early life adversities and hardship. And so I think if you can hold it like that in your heart, knowing this is an opportunity, but at the same time, honoring the part of you that feels like, why didn't you follow through with that? Or why didn't you do this? Everything is welcome. It's that thing that I kept saying, yes, welcome. Everything is welcome. Because as soon as we say, wow, that's not very nice of me as my wife's husband, I shouldn't be thinking that, that doesn't really help. Because it's an important part of you in that moment. And when you're shoving it over to the side and telling yourself, well, I ought not be feeling that. A better thing is to say, yes, welcome to that. Because if you shove it over to the side, it's still going to bite you at some point. Because it needs some attention and some care. So, yeah. And so my suggestion, I don't know if you're asking for a suggestion, but I'm offering.
Thank you.
And so my suggestion would be to do some of these 5 steps, to pause and breathe and remember that there's no threat. And yeah, those things. But always start by pausing and breathing. And some people think, well, I don't have time to do that. I've got to make the appointments here. We've got to go to the lab to get the blood work, and my cat needs to go to the vet, and who the heck has time to do that? But really, it only takes like 30 seconds to do that. And what it enables is you to return to yourself. Because when we get so busy and we get all these different personalities involved, we kind of get thrown out there instead of staying in here. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yeah. Yes.
Just to add to the 5 that I found, I've done it with several friends and then my parents, but the worst was my husband, who was in his 50s, young, and was dying of pretty gruesome death of cancer. And I remember near the end, he was so frightened of how it would be at the very end because it was going to involve breathing, that kind of thing. And I was frightened too, because I'd had a fair amount of practice already. I've never in my life had panic attacks, but I was having them because I was so frightened of, could I do it right? How bad would it be for him? And we had no family in the area. I was pretty much alone. So I went to the hospital that we were associated with, to a psychologist who was trained in grief counseling and those types of things. And her suggestion really helped me, and it was to write letters to him, but not give them to him. And so in all ways, from our history even, unresolved things and things like you say, the frustrations and the loneliness and all the different things. So I wrote and wrote, and I ripped them up at the end. But it really, really did help.
Thank you so much. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, what a wonderful idea, because you're honoring that and acknowledging it and not trying to throw it out the window.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have to worry about, gosh, I don't want to hurt his feelings and make him feel worse. And so then you're given a way to express it. I think that's a great idea.
When you reread it too, I think sometimes when I like that idea, it works to sit and just think also. Because in the moment, you can do that. You don't have to go get paper. But there's something about writing it down that then you can revisit it, and you get new insights into yourself, into what's happening. Ideas, sometimes, like you said, it's in there. We know what to do. Maybe not logistically in terms of the medical, but we know in our hearts what to do.
That's right.
The soul, as you said.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really helpful. Yeah.
Linda,
Yes.
I'm here on Zoom. It's Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. I was hoping you had finished what you were saying before I say what I was going to say. Were you going to say something else?
No, it's so great your timing, because I was just thinking, oh, I should remember these people back here. And I was going to just turn around and then you spoke. So it's perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, here I am. So I was thinking about what the gentleman just was saying. He said he's been doing this for about 3 weeks and some of his experiences so far. And I just wanted to say, I've noticed I've been doing this parent caregiving for several years now, as you know, and what I'm finding, as you were saying, there are all these great teachings along the way. And what I'm noticing is I get so much practice. It's like if I do something that I don't think is skillful, I notice that. And then I think of a different way I could try it next time. And, you know, it's like, because anyway, especially right now, it's a situation where there aren't drastic health things happening, but there's a lot of, you know, dynamics with my parent that I'm taking care of. And anyway, just to say that it's something that we tend to get a lot of opportunities to fine tune them, or to see how doing it differently will work. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that, you know, in addition to talking about this pausing and looking within to feel one's feelings, what I'm finding critical for me is that I have to do the things for myself that nourish me and give me energy, you know, that give me some joy, because I've experienced a few times of feeling completely burned out. And what I notice is that besides being drained of energy, it makes me resentful towards the person that I'm taking care of. So, you know, I know people say that a lot. Well, you have to take care of yourself first. And I just kept thinking, well, I don't have time for that. But on the other hand, I don't have time to crash and burn and not be able to do what I need to do. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. That's really important. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see you. Yeah,
Nice to see you too. Thanks for inviting us.
yeah. Does anybody else in the Zoom world have anything they want to share or ask? I don't think so. Well, speak up, please, like Robin did, if you do, because I have my back to you. Are you gonna say something else, Robin?
That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So anybody else have anything? Any questions? Yes, please.
I'll add one more comment. My wife and I moved into a continuing care residential community about 3 years ago,
Yeah,
in advance of needing it. But it's something, the whole idea of caregiving, a lot of the physical things are taken care of. We're in independent living, of course.
yeah,
But as we see our neighbors and people who become friends start to either get a terrible or an end of life medical diagnosis, and or you're starting to have evidence of dementia, forgetting things. And so we're constantly aware, and as a community, I think try to do our best to help our friends and neighbors through those issues by visiting them if they're in skilled nursing, or just going and just talking to them as maybe dementia starts taking part of their life away. But it's not an easy process, but being in a community of people this age, become aware of it, and it isn't morbid, it just is life, and you have to keep moving forward. And be grateful, I guess, of the days we have.
that's right.
That are good.
Yes, you're a wise person.
No.
No.
She'll attest to that.
No, you're supposed to say thank you.
Anyway, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge. So,
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, hi.
Hi, I was just gonna add one thing to the idea of pause.
Yes.
One learning that means a lot to me is pause and wait for the next right action, which I think is really important, because it's not just a matter of, using the pause to go into yourself, but using it as this kind of a mindful or prayerful moment when you are waiting for the guidance of what you should do next. And I think that that's an important part of that.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out. I totally agree. Yep. Yeah, and I think what happens, I know in my history, my experience is when I do that pause, if I don't hear something or feel something or know something fairly soon, I think, well, it's not working. And so, and then I move on, to back into my head and all that kind of stuff. And also I want to say, obviously, I don't advocate that we dismiss our brain. It's very important, and we have to have that on board. The problem is when that is the only place that we're resourcing from, because that's also where all the stories are and the anxiety and yeah. So thank you. Right. And I have to remember it all the time for myself, just to pause and breathe and wait. Yes.
I wanted to address the issue of breathing and the pause. More and more information is coming out on the brain and the body in regarding to meditation, breathing, settling the body down, what the breathing does, if you can, and it helps you get back to sleep. It recenters you. And it's a practice that we have to learn. And many times when a jolt happens in our life, we hold our breath.
It's true, I know.
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
But eventually, when our conscious mind tells us, you can settle this.
Yeah.
There's just more and more in neuroscience that they're finding that we have the tools
Yeah,
to help ourselves, but we have to learn about it first.
right. That's
why
right.
you're here, of course, but there's so much information now.
Mhm. Yeah, tons of it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
widely documented everywhere now
Mhm.
that this thing that some people think, well, that's kind of woo-woo or, whatever. And it's not, it really matters and it really works. But it does take repetition and reminding. I've been doing it for a long time, way over a decade. And I still get caught during the day and have to remind myself, okay, just breathe. And yeah, I can tell you, this is a story and that I'll share in one of the Wednesday night classes, but it seems appropriate to share right now. I had a caregiving client, one-on-one direct care client a number of years ago, and I was called in to help her in the last, I think she only lived about a week or so after I met her, and she had Lou Gehrig's disease. And the very first day I arrived, she was in bed, and I walked into the kitchen, and there was, I don't remember, but several pages of information and expectations of me typed out on this paper. And right away, my breathing stopped because I was like, I can't memorize all that in the first 5 minutes that I've walked in the door. And so I was like, okay, Linda, just breathe, start there. And so I glanced and tried to retain as much as I could. And I went into her bedroom, and it was very specific and detailed. Like, when you pick the washcloth up, put it on the right side of the sink, not the left. That kind of thing. And I'm not saying this with judgment or criticism, because I have a very strong certainty that when I'm doing one-on-one direct care, it is not about me. It is about supporting the person I'm caring for in the way they're accustomed to living. And so I'm not telling this story. I don't want to appear that I'm judging that person, because who cares, if she wants it on the right instead of the left. Anyway, I goofed and I put the washcloth somewhere in the wrong place. And this person was, her speech was pretty much unintelligible, and she would write things out, and her writing was not real legible either. And she got very angry at me that I put the washcloth in the wrong place. And she got so angry that she pulled herself up to get out of bed and slammed her cane on the ground and slammed the washcloth on the counter. Now you can imagine me with my history of trauma. When she was behaving that way, I was like locked up inside, and I was barely breathing. And then I remembered, oh, I can breathe. And I can also remind myself that this is not an emergency. There is no danger that's pending. And so I did this self-talk in my head. And then I kind of gathered myself, and I was really scared, and I walked over to her. She had gotten back into bed, and I'll just call her Sue. And I said, Sue, I said, I've been given a large amount of information this morning, and I cannot be expected to have memorized all of it in the first few minutes that I'm here, but we will get our groove, and we'll figure it out, and we'll do just fine. And my confidence was transmitted to her, and she relaxed. And then later that day, she wrote a note to me and said, you're doing a great job. But that was my process. And the first thing I did was I had to remember to breathe, because I was holding my breath because I was so scared. I thought, oh my gosh, I screwed up and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like a little thing, that breathing stuff, but really is a big thing.
Because it gives you a chance for something to come in to that space that's going to help you.
Exactly. That is a great metaphor. It's like that deep breath opens. It opens your chest, it opens your belly. Yeah, and it causes your mind to pause for a moment so that, like you said, something else has a chance to come in. Yeah. Looking at the time, and they said that we have to stop at 9:45. So are there any final questions or thoughts that anybody wants to share? Yes.
You've triggered a lot of things for me.
Oh, okay, good. That's
I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, who doesn't?
And I'm not caring for anyone right now, but
Yeah.
I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we all do. So I hope you can come to the Wednesday night classes. You just have to go on the internet and sign up like you did for this. And if anybody wants to stay in touch with me and you're willing, you could put your name and email address on here. I'm not somebody that sends out weekly emails. I would probably send an email out a few times a year. And it would just be something like, hey, I'm doing this or offering this, might you be interested? Or let me know how you're doing, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that, you can put your name and email on here, and then you have the rest of the information up there. I don't know about the Zoom people, if you can see that whiteboard with the class names on it. So if you can't see it and you want to know it, somebody could speak up and tell me, and I'll tell you what they are. Thank you so much for coming. It was really wonderful to be with you. Thank you.